Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This time we are going to talk about simplifying the IMRaD format, especially for writers and researchers who are required to use this particular format. So let's start off with the role and the definition of IMRaD. So IMRaD simplifies, outlines, and describes each section or parts of a full research format. So, what do we mean by a full research format? On the right side of your screen, I'm going to present to you the full research format, which includes the following parts. The first one is what we call the preliminaries. These are the parts of the full research format that is presented before Chapter 1. So ano-ano yung mga laman ng preliminaries natin? You have the title page, approval sheet, acknowledgement table of contents, list of figures, list of tables, and the abstract. If you have already accomplished the whole research, that is only the time that you can include the abstract. Okay, so this is what we call the preliminaries. Okay, next, the next part of a full research format will be chapters 1 to chapter 5 with their respective and corresponding chapter titles. So for chapter 1, you have the problem and its background. Chapter 2, you have the review of related literature and studies. Chapter 3 is research design and methodology. Chapter 4 is the presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data. And Chapter 5 is the summary of findings, conclusion, and recommendation. And the last part of your full research format is what we call the culminate. So this includes the references, appendix, and your curriculum vitae. Again, this is now what we know as the full research format. So what happens in IMRAD? So according to this definition, it simplifies, outlines, and describes each section or parts of a research format. So basically, what you have in your full research format will only be transcribed, simplified into the IMRAD format. So that is what we will be trying to identify and find out later on in our discussion. Now to continue, the purpose of converting or writing in IMRAD format is for publishing in a reputable journal, whether online or in printed material. So make sure when you start writing your IMRAD format that you follow the prescribed format, the prescribed content and element for each part of the IMRAD format. So ibig sabihin, bawat bahagi ng IMRAD ninyo merong mga ah, instruction kung ano yung mga nakalagay sa bawat bahagi ng IMRAD. So basically, there are 4 parts of IMRAD which represents the letters I, M, R, and the letter D. Okay, which represents the introduction, method, results, and discussion. To continue, publishing a study in a journal is the culminating stage of a research paper, which is dissemination and utilization. The reason why you need to publish your research paper is for dissemination. Therefore, if you have already disseminated and informed your colleagues or your group mates, there that is the only time that they will be able to utilize the result of your study in order to improve or develop whatever is the focus of your study. So, ulitin natin, ang research hindi natatapos sa defense. Colloquium is the presentation of your research in a group or in a program wherein it will be critiqued and presented in front of a panel. Okay, and then after that, it will be published. And as mentioned earlier, publishing can take place in the form of printed or online form. What is the difference between printed and online form in publishing in a reputable journal? So when it is printed, it will be limited to the reach of the printed material. While if it is online, the boundary and the limitation will go beyond the printed form. So, ibig sabihin, mas malayo ang mararating kapag ito ay published online as compared doon sa printed. Okay, ulitin natin, hindi dapat nagtatapos sa defense ang research. Kailangan sinishare ninyo kung ano yung nalaman, natuklasan doon sa inyong study. Now, that we have already established the role, the function of IMRaD, and the full research format that we will be using in order to compare and contrast full research format and IMRaD. Dahil dito sa susunod nating pag-uusapan, kapag inilatag na natin, ibinigay ko na sa inyo kung ano yung mga laman ng inyong IMRaD format, makikita nyo na karamihan sa mga laman nito are directly taken and lifted from the full research format. And that is the purpose and function of this arrow. Okay, so we will try to see and identify the parts that are reflected in the right side, which is the IMRaD format, and try to see kung saan niya kinuha dito sa full research format. The first part of an IMRaD format will be the abstract, meaning the study that you will be converting into IMRaD format should have already undergone defense and you should have already completed your study. Dapat natapos nyo na. Dahil sabi natin kanina, kapag hindi nyo pa natapos ang inyong study, you will not be able to produce an abstract because an abstract is the outline or the summary of the findings of your study. So what should be the content of the abstract? So I'm going to also present the left side para makita natin kung saan kinukuha itong mga bahagi ng IMRaD format ninyo, which I already summarized by presenting the key points that should be included in the IMRaD. Okay? So instead of yung narrative discussion, yung mga elements that should be included in every part of your IMRaD is presented in our discussion. Okay? Now, in terms of the abstract, ang laman dapat ng abstract ninyo is what we call the general research problem, purpose, and objective. Now, saan makikita ito sa inyong research paper, sa full research format? If you wrote your research paper, your manuscript, initially by using the full research format. Itong sinasabi ditong general research problem or purpose objective is what we call the SOP. So, ilagay natin dito. So, this is the statement of the problem. So, you present the SOP starting with the general problem and then present the specific problems of your statement of the problem. And then the second part is the participants or the respondents of the study. Again, this is found in your full research format. Saan makikita yan? So dito, kanina, statement of the problem. Where will you find the statement of the problem? It's this one. And then where will you find the respondents of the study? In what part will you find the respondents of the study? This one, under chapter 3, population and sample of the study. Again, this is how you should take parts of your full research format and arrange it according dito sa IMRaD format. And we are now in the abstract part. The next part is the research method and design, the method and the design that you use. So saan makikita yung method and design ninyo? It is in chapter 3, method and the design that you use. Next. Number 4, the general summary based on the findings. The findings of your study is found in Chapter 5, Summary of Findings. Okay, remember, ang abstract is the outline, the summary of your whole research. So it is important, it is very significant that you present the findings of your study. So nandyan na yun sa number 4. Number 5, conclusions from the general findings. So the findings will now generate yung tinatawag nating conclusion. Ang mga conclusion ninyo should be based on the findings of the study. And again, this is found in chapter 5. Tapusin na natin dito. Babalikan natin mamaya yung chapter 5 para makita ninyo. Number 6 is the recommendations of the study based from the findings and the conclusion of the study, which is correct. Recommendations should be crafted based on the findings and the conclusion of the study. So if you're going to observe, itong number 4, number 5, and number 6 are taken directly from chapter 5. Ano ba ang chapter 5? Summary of findings, conclusions, and recommendations. Okay? So that's chapter 5 and makikita nyo, nandito yon, findings, conclusions, and recommendations. So that is how you should write the abstract part of your IMRaD. Okay, next part, the introduction part of your IMRaD. Ano dapat ang laman ng introduction? The introduction should discuss the following. Number 1, the theoretical framework or the conceptual framework. So where will you find the theoretical or conceptual framework of your study in your full research format? Nandito siya sa chapter 1. So this is either theoretical slash conceptual framework. So you just get that part, summarize it, paraphrase it, and present it under the first part of the introduction. The next part is the research title. So you present your research title, you briefly discuss the issue that you are investigating, the context, the background. So this will be taken from what? Not just the research title, but also the introduction and background. The introduction contains the argument of your research. Bakit nyo, ano yung issue? Bakit itong napili ninyo? Ano yung epekto nito? Sino ang naapektuhan? So that is under the introduction and background of the study. Now, in your full research format, where will you find this introduction background of the study which describes the research title? It is obviously found in chapter 1, the introduction part. The introduction part also includes the background of the study. It includes discussion about the background of the study. Next, to continue, number 4, part of the introduction is the statement of the problem. Again, we've already mentioned SOP earlier. And then to continue, we have the research paradigm. The research paradigm right now, currently, is also accepted in our research culture. It also refers to the conceptual framework. So this is a matter of syntax. So when we talk about research paradigm, in our research culture, this is also referred to as the conceptual framework. So again, if we're going to go back, the statement of the problem is already stated here. This one, statement of the problem. And then the research paradigm is also included here. Okay. Next part, after the introduction, you have the method and design used. The method and design used. Okay, so there are basically two parts that you need to focus when it comes to method and design. So the first one is to make sure that you discuss the method that you used, the research method that you used, whether quantitative, qualitative, or mixed method, and the design, the corresponding design under the method. So if it is quantitative method, what specific design did you use? So example, under quantitative, you have either correlation, causal comparative, or experimental research. So that is what we mean by method and design. And method and design can be found in chapter 3. Chapter 3, which is research design and methodology. So the research method and design use is in the first part of chapter 3. Now, ano ba yung pinapagawa sa inyo dito? Number one, you should include the following: the main research purpose and objective. Restate nyo lang along with its specific. Ano ang re-restate ninyo? The general objective and purpose of your research. Number 2, sources and analysis of data in terms of selection of participants. So this is very important. How did you select your participants? So this will fall under sampling method. Okay? So selection of participants in your full research format will refer to what we call the sampling method. Okay, next. We're going to look at it later on the full research format. The next one is data gathering tools. So what instrument did you use? So data gathering tool now refers to what you call the research instrument. So where will we find this? In your full research format. The next one is statistical data analysis. Okay, statistical data analysis. So this is as is, statistical analysis, stat analysis. Okay, and then statistical analysis procedure, and then ethical considerations. Okay. So where are we going to find these elements in your full research format? You have sampling method, instrument, and statistical analysis. Statistical analysis is found in chapter 3. So let's start with the statistical analysis. It's this one, data processing and statistical treatment. Okay, so that is the first one, statistical analysis. Next, research instrument and the sampling method. Research instrument and the sampling method is found here under the population and sample. In this particular part, you should discuss, dapat isama nyo yung tinatawag nating sampling method. Okay. And then after that, so you have already sampling method. And then the research instrument is also found in chapter 3, which is the instrument used. Okay. After discussing the second part of IMRaD, we now move on to the results. Usually, there is IMRaD format wherein you can combine results and discussion. Okay, so in this case, I just separated the elements, results, and then later on, we are going to go to the discussion part. So when we talk about results, ang laman nito ay mga sumusunod. Yung presentation of computed data in the form of tables, graphs, and the following should be sequenced according to the specific objectives or problems. So, ang sinasabi ditong specific objective or problems is the SOP. Ano ang sinasabi dito sa number 1? When you present your tables or graphs, this one, tables or graphs or the result of your statistical analysis, dapat susundan ninyo ito, following the sequence of the SOP. Ang presentation ng mga table dapat sinusunod yung presentation ng SOP. Halimbawa, SOP 1 ninyo is this particular question. Doon sa presentation ninyo ng data, kung meron kayong table, ito dapat yung table na sumasagot or related dito sa SOP number 1. So that is what we mean by the tables and the graphs should follow the sequence of the research SOP, the specific objectives or problems of your SOP. So kung dalawa yung table nyo dyan, present nyo yung dalawa, and then after that, look at your SOP number 2, and then look at your table that will answer SOP number 2, and then i-present niyo dyan, table number 2. Okay? And then SOP number 3, tignan ninyo, and then look at your table, ano yung statistical analysis nyo sa SOP number 3, and then you follow. All of these tables, graphs, again, I'm going to emphasize, should follow the sequence of your SOP. So that is the meaning of number 1 under the result. So saan nyo ito makikita? This is found in chapter 4. Presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data. All of the tables that you will present will fall under chapter 4. Pagkatapos ng mga tables ninyo, lagay natin dito. So you will be presenting tables, graphs, if you're going to use graphs, and then after that, the interpretation, And then after that, some uses citations, and then after that, they synthesize. So this is usually the sequence na ginagamit kapag nagpre-present ng table. Halimbawa, table number 1. So ito lahat kailangan mai-present ninyo. Okay. Depending on the number of table that you will be using. Going back dito, under results, number 2 na tayo. Under results, number 2. Identify patterns developing from the data and state them as the findings. So present the findings, and then from the findings, formulate the general finding. Magka ano ito, related ito. So, uh, present the findings, present the general findings, and then to continue, discussion on general findings by deriving explanation from the observation and interview. So this is just the the explanation of the general finding. So dito muna yung findings, and then magpo-form kayo ng general finding, and then you discuss the findings. Saan makikita ito? Sa chapter 5. Nasa chapter 5 pa rin, the summary of findings ito. Okay? Okay, next. So let's underline this. Findings, the general findings, and then the discussion of the general findings. Next, number 5. No citing of related review to affirm or negate specific findings or general findings. Wala munang citation na gagamitin dito sa presentation ng result. Why? The presentation of the result should be objective. Wala munang opinion ninyo. Okay? Based on the statistical analysis, ano yung lumabas? Kaya, ang sinasabi lang dito sa number 5 is that you should not present any citations that would anong ibig sabihin, anong interpretation nun, yung nagdi-disagree kayo o nag-agree kayo doon sa findings of the study. Okay? So to affirm or to negate specific findings or general findings of the study, make it unbiased, make it objective. To make it objective. Okay, that is number 5. Number 6, formulation ng conclusion. So ito, yung presentation na ng conclusion ng inyong research. And again, the conclusion can be found under chapter 5. Again, this is the correlation, the parallelism of the full research format and the IMRaD format, but we are not yet done. We still have the last part, which is the discussion. Paano naman ang pagsusulat ng discussion? Ano ang laman ng discussion part? So let's read the first one. Concise discussion or explanation for ito na yon. You either agree or disagree. Okay? So if you agree, then you have to discuss. If you disagree, again, you have to present your discussion. Okay? Agree and disagree with what? With the findings of the study. Agree or disagree with the findings of the study. Okay, wait. Again. So, agree or disagree with the findings. Okay, next. Number 2, recommendations that suggest sustainability. So this focuses now on recommendations. So again, recommendations can be found in chapter 5, this one, the last part of chapter 5. So recommendation should be presented here. Number 3, stronger recommendation to reconcile the contradiction between the theory and practice or from theory to practice. If there is any contradiction, kung wala naman, then number 1 and number 2 will already suffice sa pagsusulat ninyo ng inyong discussion. And then the last part of your IMRaD, include the references that you use in your discussion. Appendix, if you have letters that you use in order to ask permission to conduct the study, so you should include that under the appendix and the curriculum vitae. Now, this is just a recommendation. You should at least use 20 references for your discussion, for the discussion of your IMRAD format. So basically, this is the relationship of the full research format and the IMRAD format at kung ano yung mga kailangan nyo dapat isulat kapag ang gamit nyo ay IMRAD format at kung saan nyo siya kukunin dito sa ating full research format. I will be presenting to you a sample IMRAD format, an actual IMRAD format that was used in an online journal by a reputable organization, which is the Asia Pacific Consortium of Researchers and Education. So after that presentation, you will have an idea kung ano yung magiging kakalabasan ng inyong IMRAD, yung actual na IMRAD ninyo. So let's watch this sample IMRAD format. Hello everyone and welcome back. This time I will be presenting to you a study that we conducted and was published in an online journal under the organization Asia Pacific Consortium of Researchers and Educators, or APCOR. And the title of our study is Challenges Encountered by Selected Students of the College of Arts and Sciences During the New Normal of Education, which was written by yours truly together with Dr. Maristela B. Rojas. So this was presented, as you can see on the upper right corner, year 2022, December 2022, and the journal was published and released January of 2023. So I am going to guide you through the different parts of this particular format so that you would have an idea of what it actually looks like based from the discussion and the theoretical parts that we were discussing previously. So the first part of an IMRAD format will always be the abstract. The abstract can take the place or can take the form of 3 to 4 paragraphs or a one paragraph abstract format. Okay? But basically, all abstract, aside from the contents required from you, so you really have to read what is required to be included in the abstract. Aside from those elements, make sure that the last part will always be the keywords. The keywords, whether it's a one paragraph format or a 3 to 4 paragraph abstract format, the keywords will always be there. It is a prerequisite when writing your research abstract from or using the IMRAD format. So in following the IMRAD parts, the first part, which is the introduction, as you can see, is reflected in this particular presentation. After the introduction, you have the methods. So the method should contain the method and design that you use for your study as required by the institution or by the organization. But in this case, instead of method or using the label method, they use the term materials and method. So as you can see, the last part of the introduction before the method is the statement of the problem, which is, again, we previously discussed in the part of how you should write introduction. So in the part of method, so in this case, they used materials and method. The materials and method was presented using 3 paragraphs only. Okay, and then eventually after that, we were able to proceed to the next part, which is the discussion, results and discussion. Okay, so the results and discussion already started with the presentation of the graphs together with the interpretation of the values and the values that is reflected in the graph. And then after that, we continue with the presentation of the graphs based on the findings of the study. And then after that, we have the last part, which is the conclusion of the study. Now, so as you can see, the conclusion includes the recommendation. And then after that, we also included the acknowledgement. And the last part of your IMRAD format will always be the references that you used in the discussion of your study. So in this case, we started with the following references up to the second page of this particular research online journal. So this is the last part of our journal. And I hope with this, you will have an idea of how your own proposed research would look like if you are going to write them and if it will be published in a reputable organization or journal just like this one. So thank you very much, everyone. Again, I would like to uh, recognize your effort in trying to learn research writing, which is not easy. So the only advice that I can give you is perfection will always be attained by repetition. So if you cannot understand it on the first try, on the first reading, on the first writing, try to read it again. Reread, rewatch, and look for examples so that you will really be familiar with the process, the culture that your institution is requiring of you with regard to the writing of your research. So thank you very much, everyone. Again, we are going to continue with the next part of our discussion after this video presentation. Keep learning, everyone. Bye.